Multiple Penguins updates, including a roster move, with the player being recalled from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, updates on the Penguins' Global Series games next year in Sweden, and Mike Sullivan giving an update on his current contract situation and his future with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Welcome to Penguins Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. First, before we get started, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Penguins Digest, a Penguins YouTube channel committed to providing the latest Pittsburgh Penguins news, rumors, updates, and analysis. Hit that sub button and let's march on. Like the March of the Penguins, we're on a roll right now, and Mike Sullivan took the time to speak about his future with the Penguins organization. He has been the head coach of this team for 10 years. He has won multiple Stanley Cups with the Penguins, and it's finally time to make a decision. Is Sully the guy to lead us into the future? My vote is yes. A lot of people have different opinions, but we're going to let Sully speak for himself, because the first thing that Mike Sullivan said was that him moving on from Pittsburgh would not be on his own accord. This article from TSN said that Sully being behind the bench with another team hasn't even crossed his mind. And to further cement that, let's see what Sully actually said. The quote from Mike Sullivan himself: "I don't even think about it. I have incredible loyalty to this organization. I'm grateful for this opportunity and the opportunity to coach this team. It has been a privilege to coach this team and to be part of this organization. I have a certain loyalty to all of the people who are a part of it here." He continued to say, "This is an organization that has enjoyed its share of success. Lately, we've hit some bumps in the road, but that doesn't deter me from wanting to do my job. Just because it gets hard, that doesn't make you want to quit. Where we are as an organization, I don't think it's caught anybody by surprise. It's an inevitable evolution. We're doing everything in our power to try and navigate this as best we can, to be as competitive as we can, as quickly as possible. And all I want to do is help this organization win." And win is what we've done under Mike Sullivan. Sullivan is a great head coach. Sometimes that gets lost in translation when people want to criticize the state of the Penguins. But Sullivan led this Penguins team to the Stanley Cup, back-to-back Stanley Cups, after taking over as the head coach during the 15-16 season. He oversaw a repeat, something that rarely happens in the National Hockey League. Pittsburgh has only won one playoff series since and is on track to miss the playoffs for a third straight season. But that doesn't mean that Sully isn't the man to lead us into the future and to lead us with this new group of young players, because he's committed to winning. He remains signed with the Penguins through 26-27 after inking a 3-year contract back in 2022. He's 57 years old, 473 career wins over 12 seasons, which includes a 2-year stint with the Boston Bruins back in 2003 to 2005. He recently coached Team USA to a second-place finish at the Four Nations Faceoff, which you guys know all about because we covered it on this channel. And then the final thing on Sullivan: the Penguins are currently riding a 4-game winning streak. They have moved to 14th in the Eastern Conference, 6 games back of the New York Rangers for the final wild card spot, with just one more game played. And let's give you a visual of that. The standings currently as they stand in the Eastern Conference wild card: the Pittsburgh Penguins are obviously on the outside looking in, but that bubble is very thick. And there's a lot of teams that are in the bubble right now that are not out of contention. The path will be difficult, but they are not out of it yet. So I like to say, never say die. This team finishes strong every single year, and I just saw a stat earlier today that the Penguins actually went undefeated in March in the Sidney Crosby era at one point, 15-0, and Crosby had 25 points in those 15 games. So if anybody can do it, it's Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And let's look at the road ahead and the schedule upcoming for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They beat the Minnesota Wild, they beat Vegas, they beat St. Louis, they beat New Jersey. They play the Islanders tonight at 7, so tune into that one. And then they're at home against the Blue Jackets on the 21st. Then they come to the beautiful Sunshine State of Florida to do a 2-game series, playing the Florida Panthers on Sunday the 23rd and the Tampa Bay Lightning on Tuesday the 25th. The Penguins made a move. They called up a player from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and I will be honest with you guys, I had to do a little bit of research to figure out who this dude was, because I've heard his name before, but I didn't know a whole lot about him. So I do apologize that I don't have a ton of information on Joona Koppanen. That is the player the Penguins just recalled from Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And this article from Pro Hockey Rumors detailed the situation very well. It talked about Joona Koppanen being recalled from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and he's mostly being recalled on an emergency basis. So similar to what we saw with Matt Nieto and Sebastian Aho, he's just there in case we need him. Okay, we can never have too many players. Plenty of talent down there in Wilkes-Barre. Call up Joona Koppanen, and maybe he gets a crack at it. Maybe he does it. He's 27 years old, and like it says here, it's mainly a recall on an emergency basis, so we're not really expecting to see Joona Koppanen, but if we do, hey, that's great. This is his second season of a 2-year, 2-way contract that he signed with the Penguins back in 2023 at the start of free agency on July 1st, and Koppanen has dressed in 4 games for the Penguins last season, tallying no points while playing 7 minutes and 49 seconds per game, probably why I didn't really notice him a whole lot, but that was not his first taste of NHL action. He actually had a 5-game stint with the Boston Bruins back in 22-23, and he has never produced much offense at any level and just has a single assist in 9 career NHL games. So Joona Koppanen, a forward, but not a guy that you're going to see produce a whole lot of points. In the AHL this season, he has been mainly a depth player for Wilkes-Barre Scranton. They are a loaded team, so being a depth player for Wilkes-Barre Scranton isn't necessarily a knock on a guy because of how good they actually are, but he does have 6 goals, 15 assists in 53 games. Scoring numbers are almost a mirror image of last season where he had 15 assists in 58 games. So Joona Koppanen, 6'5", has been an AHL regular since 2018-19, spending most of his career with the Providence Bruins. But if you look down at the bottom, Koppanen might not see a whole lot of action during this recall, but he is coming to Pittsburgh on a bit of a heater, having notched 2 goals and 3 assists in his past 4 games. So 5 points in Joona Koppanen's last 4 games. That could be a reason for his recall. Maybe he does get an opportunity for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's a reason to call a guy up if he's on a heater, and that's the best stretch that he's had in his AHL career. So good for Joona Koppanen. See if he gets an opportunity. But for now, what we know, mainly on an emergency basis if necessary, just like Matt Nieto and Sebastian Aho were recalled recently. As we look at the last thing that we're going to talk about today on Penguins Digest, Pens plus Preds equals Sweden. It is official. The Penguins will be taking on the Nashville Predators in the Sweden series next November. We didn't know who the opponent would be. We reported that the Penguins were going to be playing in Sweden here on Penguins Digest a while back, but now it is official. They will be playing against the Nashville Predators, and obviously we're going to talk about the different players from Sweden that are on these rosters that are very much looking forward to this homecoming, but the main thing that we were waiting to hear was the opponent the Penguins were going to have. Of course, they need to pick a team that has a lot of Swedish players, and I think Filip Forsberg and the Nashville Predators is a perfect opponent for the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that we've traded with a lot recently, so a team that I'm looking forward to going head-to-head against. The Nashville Predators gifted us Philip Tomasino, Tommy Novak. I mean, we got to love the Nashville Predators, right, guys? I mean, they basically are the farm system for the Pittsburgh Penguins outside of the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Baby Penguins. And I know I said that on this channel before. It might be a little bit of an insult to Nashville, but who cares? So the Penguins will be playing the Nashville Predators in Sweden for the NHL's Global Series, something that we can really look forward to next season, playing in a different atmosphere. And a lot of players are going to have a homecoming here, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, but I wanted to make sure that you guys knew exactly where we got this information from. Per a report by Seth Rohrabaugh, it stated the Penguins were heading to Sweden, and the NHL made everything official as the Predators were revealed as their opponents. Stockholm, Sweden is part of the NHL's Global Series, a way of promoting this game to other countries around the world that have a lot of hockey players, and they play a lot of hockey in Sweden, but we don't get to play NHL games in Sweden. So we want to show them the highest level of hockey in the entire world, the National Hockey League. The Penguins and Predators will play 2 games at Stockholm's Avicii Arena on November 14th and 16th. So that will be the Penguins' first trip to Europe since they kicked off the 2008-09 season in Sweden. And this is the Predators' 3rd trip overseas, but first to Sweden. And let's talk about the current players on these rosters that are from Sweden that are going to get a little bit of a homecoming between the Penguins and Predators' current rosters. There are 6 players that call Sweden home. Karlsson, Brickell, and Bemstrom are natives of Sweden for Pittsburgh. And then obviously Karlsson and Raquel played for Sweden in the Four Nations face-off. The Predators have 3 more Sweden natives: Filip Forsberg, Andreas Englund, and Adam Wilsby. So Forsberg is the Predators' all-time leading goal scorer and was a key feature on the team's Four Nations face-off roster. The promo showed Filip Forsberg and Erik Karlsson and Rickard Raquel. So mainly the guys that represented Sweden in the Four Nations face-off, players that have a lot of pride playing for their country and will have a lot of pride playing in their country in the NHL's Global Series that I'm very excited about. After this was announced and Erik Karlsson was one of the main faces for the Penguins featuring this series for next year, I made the joke on social media that Erik Karlsson maybe might not be a Penguin come that time. So they promoted Erik Karlsson versus Filip Forsberg, and Erik Karlsson may very well be traded this summer, meaning that he won't get to play in Sweden anyways, unless he's traded to the Nashville Predators. So that's just something to think about. Will Erik Karlsson actually get to play in Sweden? You never know. Maybe we trade him this summer. Maybe he's not part of the roster when we go to Stockholm. But if he is, good for him. As long as we have Rickard Rakell, I'll be happy, and the Predators will have Filip Forsberg. So still plenty of representation in the Global Series in Stockholm, Sweden. So that's really all the updates we have for today. Penguins Islanders in just about an hour. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Penguins Digest. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode.